You're watching Rehatch Designs by Tina Williams, where I remake and update unwanted and discarded items into beautiful home decor in many different styles and in many different ways to resell in my booths or to use in my own home. So sit back and enjoy the video, and if you like it, please give me a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll know when I upload future videos. Thanks for watching. So project number 1, these are all really simple, but these are big money makers for me in my booth. I have this canvas art that I purchased from Temu, and I do these all the time, and with very little effort, I make quite a bit of profit. So this price was $4.99 for this frame, and I bought it at a thrift store. And it's a wood frame, and it's a pretty good size. And all I did is take the backing off of it. Usually they'll have nails or staples or whatever. And I am going to be going over this with 2 coats of Wood Wick by Fusion. And what's great about the Fusion paint is it has a built-in top coat and primer. So that's all I have to do to it. I just cleaned it off and just started painting. So this is a quick flip. And I sell these so quickly, I can't even make enough. As soon as I put them in, they'll be sold within 1 or 2 days. And my cost into this will probably be less than $8 total. And I sell these for about anywhere from $50 to $60, depending upon the size or what I do to it. This one I will sell for $60. So now all I'm doing is I am taking some black wax and I'm going over the frame, and it gives it a more vintage look, and I think it looks more high-end when you do that. You definitely don't need to steal the Fusion paint, but I do that. It doesn't take long to do it, and it really does give them, I think, just a higher end look. And now all I'm doing is I am taking some Eileen's Tacky Glue, and I am going over the back of, this is the portion of the board, the foam board that we took out of the frame. I usually always use that unless it's not in good shape. I buy a bunch of that foam board from Dollar Tree just to have on hand, just in case I need to replace it. And I make sure that I go over the whole thing so that I won't have any bubbles or anything, just like you would in decoupage. But I like using a thicker glue on there because it does hold the canvas down. This isn't like decoupage. This is a real canvas like you would have in a painting. And now I'm using my brayer to go over the whole thing to make sure I don't have any bubbles. I used to use hot glue to put these in there, and then I realized that sometimes you could see the little marks from the hot glue, so I don't do that anymore. And now I'm just trimming off the excess canvas. Usually it's very hard to get frames to fit these canvases. Temu somehow does not get their sizes right. Plus, on a lot of these old frames, they're kind of odd sizes. And I will say, like on the wood frames, I do paint them most of the time, even, unless the wood's a really pretty wood, because they seem to sell faster for me that way. And that Wood Wick is a great color. It's kind of a cross between a gray and a brown, and it seems to go with everything. And I didn't paint the back of the frame because I always take this paper, and this is that heavy duty paper. It's not like the lightweight that you do packages. You bought it by the roll. I think it's used for when you paint, to put down on the ground. And I always do that on the back of my frames on all sizes because it makes them look very professional, and it makes them look newer. And it costs very, very little to do this because I don't think one roll is even $20, and it'll last you forever. So I just take my hot glue and I go all the way around the frame. I have very, very hot glue, so I can go around all four sides. If your glue is not that hot and it dries, just do it one section at a time. And I just kind of pull it across pretty tight. And then I just take my finger sander and go on an edge, and I'm just making a nice clean edge. You could use an X-Acto knife if you want to do that. I like doing this. To me, it turns out perfect every time. And if for any reason any glue was on there, it takes that glue off. And then I'm just going to put my picture hanging apparatus on there. If it's a large picture, I always do the hanging, little hanging system with the wire. If it's a smaller one, then I do that little sawtooth thing. It just depends on the weight and the size, but I always do that. I don't ever try and sell one without the hanging thing on it. Those extra little things that you do make it look higher end, and you can ask a better price. So, and they don't cost much. I mean, they may up front, but you get so many pieces in these when you buy those kits or whatever, that it'll last you quite a few picture frames. Now, most of the time I like to use a little crimp things that you crimp with your that you string your wire through, but this time I tied it on. I always put a dab of glue so they don't come undone. And anyway, I make sure that my glass is completely clean. And that's it, guys. That is how I do it. I do usually put the glass in if I have the glass. I do think that also makes it look higher end. And I will sell this. I've already sold 2 of these actually, so I know it's going to sell a while ago. So now this is project number 2, and it's along the same lines. So this is a frame that's a really odd size, so don't be afraid to pick up those strange frames, because you can always find something to put in them. I mean, there'll be some weird canvas or something that you have, or you can always print off artwork from the internet, get something from a book, you can stamp on it, but pick up those frames that that other people are going, oh, okay, that's weird, it's a weird size or something, because you can make them over. And this was marked $4, but I had 75% off, so I didn't even pay that for it. So, for like $1. And then, of course, I take everything off the back. And I'll tell you, the hardest part of doing these flips is taking all the nails and stuff out of the back usually. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using Fusion's Ash. It's not quite black. It's basically a very, very dark gray. I love this color. I use it on a lot of my flips. And again, I love it because it has this the primer and sealer in it. It saves me steps, and I think in the long run it saves me money because I'm not doing all those other things to it. And I will go over this basically with one good coat, and then I'll touch up anywhere I miss. And this is a acrylic frame. It's not made out of wood, so this does stick to it, no problem. And I didn't really have to do anything. I always clean everything off with some alcohol and just a wipe or a shop towel or something to make sure they're clean before I do anything, because you don't want any dust or dirt on your project before you start. So anyway, I will go over that and let it dry completely. And if I missed any spots, I'll go back in. But for the most part, this is super easy to do. Like I said, the hardest part of these flips usually are just taking all the nails, and a lot of times those staples are those big long staples, and you have to yank them out, and it just takes a minute to do that. And that usually is the hardest part of this whole thing. And I think I've only been selling these pictures for going on 2 months, and I have pretty much sold every one that I've put in my booth at some point. So And there are some that sell over and over again. I mean, so anyway, now I'm using Modern Masters bronze patina, and I'm going to go over the whole frame with that. And this is the kind of patina spray that has metal in it, and you know, you put a spray on it later to have an effect. Now this is adding, you know, to your overall cost, but very little. It doesn't take much to go over the frame. I'm going to go over it once, and then I go over it twice. So now what I'm doing is I am taking the Modern Masters copper, and I'm actually adding it to the bronze while it's still wet. And I'm going to go over that in certain spots, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm using the same brush. It's kind of mixing a little bit. So it's going to have a little bit of copper and bronze in it. I'll go over the whole thing, and if I miss some spots, that's okay, because the black is going to show through. And I even take a little wipe from time to time, and on the some of the parts of the frame, I'll wipe it back and allow the black to show through. I want this to look like a vintage frame. And now I'm taking the blue and the green patina that you can buy that goes with this. Dixie Belle has theirs also, and I've used it. And it works well. And I'm just going to spray over this. And the hardest part of this whole thing is you have to wait about an hour for the effect to happen. It doesn't, you know, take all that long, but it's, you know, it's waiting that hour. And then this is what you get. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to take some black wax, and I'm going to go over this frame with just a little bit of black wax, just to tone down some of the copper and the bronze a little bit. I want this to look old and vintage, like it's been around for a really long time. I'm not doing it to seal the paint or anything, because it's pretty much already sealed. And it will take away some of the patina, but most of it will stay on there. And it'll give it a really, really good vintage look to it. These little extra steps that you do to these frames like that, I think just make them look higher end. And they, I don't know, they sell quickly, and the cost in doing them is not all that much, and either the time isn't either. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of time. The longest this takes is waiting for the patina. And there's also patina effects that you can use that give you that look instantly if you don't want to wait around for it. Although I do think the spray looks more authentic. And now all I'm doing is taking the piece of glass that goes in there, and I'm taking a pencil and I'm marking where I want this, because I'm going to have to cut off a lot of this. And whenever I have to cut off a lot, I usually like to use the glass as a way for me to see what I'm going to be cutting, so that I'm not cutting off anything important on the picture. And then after I do that, you can see I have my line from the pencil, and I go all the way around and I cut it out. Like I said, this is a kind of an odd size frame, but yet when you see this when it's done, it looks like it's meant for this particular piece of canvas. So it's a little on the small side, but I think for the most part it looks like it was made for this. And you'll see why when I put it in there. You can see that turquoise color, you'll see a bronze, you'll see kind of a copper color from these moths. And I think that, to me, is why, you know, when you take that extra step, it really makes a difference, and it makes them all look cohesive and very custom. So now I'm just taking my glue again, my Eileen's tacky glue. You can use Mod Podge, you can use any kind of glue you want to use. I just like using the thicker glue because it holds the canvas down pretty well. And I'm just going to go over it. And I will go over this a lot of times with just a damp brush, just so that I make sure I get glue all over. I concentrate on the edges to make sure that that canvas stays down. And I will put that down, making sure I get it placed right where I need it. You know, and of course you have time when you use a glue like that. Make sure it all goes down really well. Clean off your glass. That is very important to make sure. It's very frustrating too when you go through the trouble of putting that glass back in and you don't want to be putting the paper on the back and everything. And then there'll be one little speck or spot. So then I'll go ahead and put everything back together. And if you can see, there's already a hanger on the back of this, and it's the kind that you hammer in. And I'm actually just going to leave it, and I will cover the back of this, and you'll be able to see that I use that hanger. But in the meantime, these are these little things. I don't know what you call them exactly, but they hold the glass and the picture in. And instead of going in and putting staples or nails or whatever in this one, I'm going to use these on the back. And when you buy these, I will put a link in the description box. But they are very, very good to use on your frames. And I go around the whole back and make sure I have some. You can use the little screwdriver that they have. Or you can, I screw it in a little bit and then I'll just use my electric screwdriver. But, you know, you can definitely use the hand one. And then again, I'm going to go do the same thing that I did on the other one. But what's going to happen is I am going to show you how you don't have to remove that little hanger. I'm going to take my glue and go all the way around it and a little bit underneath it. Just because we're going to go afterwards. And when we sand the brown paper off, we're actually going to sand where that hanger is, and it will let us know right where we need to cut it. And a lot of times it'll go ahead and, you know, make a little slit mark for you, and then you don't even have to replace that little hanger. So it saves you a step, it saves you some money, and it looks very professional when you're done. So again, I'm just going to take my little finger sander, go over the back. And the reason I'm going over these steps is I do think that that is what makes them look higher end, that allows me to ask a higher price, you know, and also too, you know, when I sell my stuff, I'm selling in a little bit higher end marketplace. So it depends on where you are and, you know, where you're selling. And of course, the traffic that you get as well. But I go ahead and just make sure that I get a nice clean edge all around the bottom, everywhere. And I really love the way these look when they're done. I don't ever have to worry about somebody turning it over and looking on the back and it being a mess because I got paint all over it, because I'm covering all that up. Anyway, so I do go over the back and see where the hanger is there. I will go over that with my little hand sander. If you don't have one of these hand sanders, you need to get one because they are well worth every penny. And look how I just go over the back. I just sand it and it will give me a little slit on each side. And I've already put a little glue on the bottom of it and on the top. And sometimes you might have to take a little screwdriver or something and pop it out a little bit if it's, you know, if you've made it too close to the edge or whatever, or it's gone in too far, like I'm doing there. And that's it. That's all I do to this. And I think it turned out fantastic. And you can see how that little bit of patina goes really well with the frame. This will sell for about $35. Project number 3. This is super easy. I am going to take this frame that I thrifted, and I think I paid about $3 for this total. I got it at Goodwill. And I am going to take one of these transfers from Holly Glen. You could use decoupage paper. You could use something you printed from the internet. Anything. And it's all about the frame in this flip. So be shopping for those frames. I think that this kind of woodsy looking frame goes exceptionally well with this little bunny. And I'm taking the glass, and there's a couple pieces of cardboard in there. And I'm using that glass to cut out a piece of beige, just paper that I have. And this is just some cardstock that I have. And I picked the beige because I'm going to put the transfer right on this paper. It transfers extremely well. And of course you could do that if you have decoupage, or if you printed something off the internet. You could use it with a napkin. It doesn't have to be a transfer. It can be whatever you have. I will tell you that I think even though the transfers are an investment, if you're a flipper, on a lot of these big transfer packs, you get so many items out of these that all you have to do is sell 2 of them, and you've paid for you've paid for it. I mean, I will sell this for $28 in my booth, and I guarantee you it will go quickly. So I'm just going to put the transfer on that white paper and then cut off the extra on the back. And then just trying not to trim too much. And there will be a little bit of it's really beige paper showing. And that's fine. I'll show you what we do with that. All I know is I cannot keep artwork in my booths. And all 3 of my booths, it's the same thing. I could spend every day making these, and now granted, some take a little bit longer than others, but eventually they all sell. So, and I have different styles in there too as well. So it isn't just one style or whatever. I try to have different things. I've had shabby, I've had, dark and moody, I've had cottage core, but it sells. So all you're going to do is, of course, rub on your transfer until it releases. And on any kind of cardstock or whatever, it comes off very, very easily. So this is one of the best ways to use a transfer for artwork. And these are gorgeous. I hope they come out with something similar to these because they're absolutely gorgeous. And I still have a ton left of these, so you're going to see more of them. I know that, you can't get them anymore, but I think it's important to see what you can do with transfers in general, or, napkins or whatever, and how they can, you can produce artwork that will sell. And now I'm just using some vintage photo that I have in my arsenal to darken the edges, because I know that they're going to show a little bit in this frame. So I'm just going to try and make them blend in with the transfer. And I just go around the edges with that. And then I will just pop this back into that frame, make sure the glass is nice and clean. And I actually don't even do anything to the back of this one because it's in pretty good shape. And that's another thing too, even on velvet frames and backings and things like that, or if you have a frame that's, like a stand-up type frame on a smaller frame, I paint over those as well so that, they look fresh and new. I think it's important to take those extra steps and make sure the back looks as good as the front and it looks professional. And I always usually use alcohol to clean off my glass. Again, you could put this in there without glass, but if you have it, I think it makes the whole thing look even higher, more higher end. And I'll put that in, and everything on the back of this was pretty much in good shape, so I didn't add the brown paper on this. Of course, I could do that, but this doesn't have a little stand thing, so this could be a good candidate to do that. I did add a hanger on the back of it because it didn't have one. This is a pretty thick frame, so I think it's kind of meant to be like a shelf sitter type thing, so you could definitely do that. You could do a transfer on a block of wood and probably sell that as artwork and put a hanger on the back and give people the option of hanging it or having it set up as well. In fact, I'm going to do some of those, but anyway, I just wanted to show you this. I think it's important to go out there and look for unique frames and different things, and when you find one, grab it, even if you don't know for sure what you're going to put in it, because artwork sells. It just does. And I feel like that that and smalls are what make the money in my booth. I have a lot of other little things in there that I sell, but I pretty much pay my rent with smalls, and then my artworks probably makes up my profit. And I buy these frames for so little that I have a huge profit margin on them, and that makes up for the things that I buy wholesale, you know, like my paint or my IOD or some of my wholesale items that I have at my Grapevine location, where you're only making 50%. On a lot of these items, I'm probably making an 80% profit margin easy, and that kind of helps, you know, it helps with the overall cost of having to get some things wholesale. So here we go. There's that beautiful little bunny. I think it looks fantastic in that frame. That beautiful little woodsy look. So thanks for joining me. And I will be trying to do my videos now on Tuesdays and Fridays. So stay tuned for the next one. See you next time.